All right, we are back with the things that we can see from the top of the Mount of Olives. So let's go back up to the observation site there and look back and see the Temple Mount. So below us are the grave sites on the Mount of Olives itself, and in the distance is the platform that surrounds the Temple Mount area. Now, if we look at the retaining wall around the Temple Mount, do you notice the change of color right about this point here? What we're seeing is the older part of the retaining wall to the right, which was built in the time of the first temple, and the extension that was created in the time of the Hasmoneans. And the Hasmoneans are after the end of Malachi, in that intermediate period, about 200 years before the birth of Jesus. Now, continuing on, you see that the color changes again here. And this part, this extension, was built by Herod. So we have three different ages of the wall right here in front of us. The next thing I want to point out is the stairs on the left. Do you see them? And imagine walking up those stairs all the way to the top of the platform. Like, imagine that the portion built by Herod wasn't there. Do you see how those stairs would take you right to the top of the Temple Mount at that area which was built by the Hasmoneans? So if we look at those stairs from a different angle here, this is from up in the air looking from the south, you will see that the stairs just run right into the wall there. Well, what did that look like in the time of Herod? There's actually gates that were built at that time, and one is called, the gate on the right for the right-hand stairs is called the Triple Gate. And you can see that here. And then if you go back to the overview picture, there's a place here where there was what is called the Double Gate, and that was right about here. So let's move in and take a look at this Double Gate in close up. Now, this has been built over in subsequent times, but you can see the beginning of what is known as the Double Gate. These gates together are referred to as the Huldah gates, which comes from a description of a part of the sanctified Temple Mount in the Hasmonean period. Now, the stairs are not the only things that we see on the south side of the Temple Mount. This area here has been referred to as Ophel. And Ophel is a raised up area of a city that is often fortified. And this term is actually used in the Tanakh, in 2 Chronicles, and in Nehemiah. Now, in between the stairs here and in the area over here has been said to be part of the Acra, which is another fortified compound that was built in the time frame of Antiochus Epiphanes of the Greek Seleucid period. Now, there is much debate as to where this structure really is today. One of the most recent suggestions is that the main part of it actually appears over here on the left side of the roadway. And as we go back to the main overview of the Temple Mount here, if you look right about here, you can see just the beginnings of a part of the Temple Mount which leads down to something called the Marwani prayer hall. Let's take a look at this from above. And now you can see this portion is actually quite significant, with a stairway going down into a large room. This is what the Marwani prayer hall looks like from the inside. I've never been in this structure. Have you ever heard about the excavations that were done by the Arabs without permission of the Jews in the Temple Mount? This was the area of the excavation. They were bringing out this area in order to be able to build this additional prayer hall. And during the excavations, they began to damage the actual retaining wall, and it began to bulge out. So repairs were needed. So this shot here shows the repaired area, and you can see the white portion of the wall. Many people have complained that this was not repaired very well. Now, where did all the debris end up? Well, it was taken to a trash heap. When the Israelis discovered what was going on, they took all of that material and started what is now known as the Temple Mount Sifting Project, where you can come from all over and have the opportunity to actually dig for and find items from as far back as the First Temple period to as recent as the Middle Ages, the Crusade period. And it's a lot of fun. I recommend doing it. I have done that, and it's very educational, and you feel like you're doing something that can make a difference also. So the Al Marwani Prayer Hall is here and extends from approximately here to here, as far as I can tell. One of the things that stands out in the distance is a couple of larger buildings. On the lower left here we have a yeshiva, which is quite modern and in use today. But the larger dome structure up above it is the Hurva Synagogue. The Hurva Synagogue is not ancient, but it's not exactly new either. The original synagogue built on this site was built in the early 18th century and was destroyed in 1721. But it was rebuilt in 1864, and from that time until 1948, it became the main Ashkenazi synagogue in Jerusalem. It was destroyed by the Jordanians after the ceasefire in 1948. And in 1967, when the Jews took control of the old city again, they started construction of yet another version of the synagogue, and that's what you see today. What we see today was actually dedicated only as recently as March of 2010. And here is an inside view. As we look to the left from the Temple Mount, there are a few other things to see. The major feature to the left here is the Hinnom Valley, which is the valley from which the Greek word Gehenna, or Hades, comes from. And this is one of the three main valleys around Jerusalem, the most westward of the three. This area on the other side of Jerusalem is where the Israelis planned their activities towards the old city of Jerusalem. This was the command center. As we look to the left in this shot, we see the East Jerusalem Arab neighborhood of Abu Tor. And here is the full extent of that neighborhood. Looking to the top, you can see two large high-rises that are being built, and this is on the road that connects Jerusalem to Bethlehem. What we're seeing here is the boundary of West Jerusalem with East Jerusalem in the foreground. So here we are back to the main view of the Temple Mount. I hope you've enjoyed this view from the Mount of Olives and looking at some of the sights and the things that we can see from this amazing place on the earth. Until next time, Shalom.